My husband sold my eggs to his mistress without my consent, while I was under anesthesia for appendix surgery. His mother was the clinic owner. I woke up. They'd harvested everything. She got pregnant. With my biological child. They celebrated. I smiled. Congratulated them. 9 months later she gave birth. That's when the DNA results I'd ordered arrived. Not just my eggs. Something else. Something impossible. Something that changed everything. I should have known something was wrong when Derek's mother started texting me about my period. Not in so many words, of course. Patricia Brandt was too refined for that. But the messages came every month like clockwork. How are you feeling, dear? And any changes in your cycle? As if my uterus was some kind of group project. I stood in the break room at Aurora Medical Center on a Tuesday morning in late September, watching leftover lasagna rotate in the microwave while Jennifer Kolsky complained about her daughter's college essay. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, that particular frequency that makes everything feel slightly unreal after a 12-hour shift. She wants to write about our trip to Wisconsin Dells, Jennifer was saying. I told her, Megan, admissions officers don't care about the water slides. I laughed, sipped burnt coffee and pressed my hand against my lower abdomen. The ache had been there for 2 weeks, dull, persistent like a bruise on the inside. My phone buzzed. Derek, Mom says you should get that stomach thing checked. Don't be stubborn. I deleted it. Patricia always had opinions about my body. What I ate. How much I exercised. Why, after 4 IVF rounds and 12 years of marriage, I hadn't produced a grandchild. Those were her exact words during the last failed cycle 3 months ago. Some women's bodies just aren't meant for this, dear. I'd believed her. After all, Dr. Patricia Brandt had brought more babies into the world than anyone in Wisconsin. Her clinic's success rate made people drive up from Illinois. She'd been featured in Milwaukee Magazine twice. So when she looked at my test results with that pitying expression, lips pressed thin, head tilted just so, I'd assumed the problem was me. The microwave beeped. I burned my fingers on the Tupperware, swore under my breath. You okay? Jennifer asked. Fine. Just tired. 6 more hours until I could go home and pretend everything was fine. That evening I drove through Milwaukee's east side, past the coffee shop on Brady Street where Derek and I used to study during nursing school. Past the park where he'd proposed, down on one knee next to the lake. Our rented duplex sat on a quiet street in River West, $18.50 a month, which had felt doable before we'd sunk $48,000 into fertility treatments. The kind of money that sits on credit cards charging 19% interest while you pick up double shifts and skip oil changes. Derek was already home, tie loosened, scrolling his phone at the kitchen table. He looked up and smiled. That easy smile that had made me fall for him 13 years ago. How you feeling? I set down my purse. Fine. Just tired. You said that this morning. He stood, crossed the kitchen, kissed my forehead. Mom called. He's worried. Said you should come in for an exam tomorrow. She can squeeze you in at the clinic. I stiffened. Patricia's clinic was the last place I wanted to be. All those pregnant women in the waiting room, glowing and grateful. I'm fine. It's probably stress. Naomi. His hand landed on my shoulder. You've been in pain for 2 weeks. Just let her check. For me. I nodded because it was easier than fighting. She already knows you're coming. 3 o'clock. I pulled back. You already scheduled it? She had an opening. Didn't want you to wait. Something flickered in his expression. There and gone too fast to name. Later that night, I lay in bed scrolling Facebook while Derek snored beside me. My feed was full of pregnancy announcements. Former classmates, glowing in maternity photos. My cousin Rachel announcing her third. 4 IVF cycles. 4 failures. Patricia had overseen 3 personally, always with that pitying look. Those same careful words about my body not being meant for this. I pressed my fingers low on my abdomen. The ache sharpened. Something was wrong. But Patricia Brandt had spent 30 years studying women's bodies. Why would she lie? I closed Facebook and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I'd go to the clinic. Rule out appendicitis. Make Derek stop hovering and his mother stop texting. Just one more thing to keep the peace. The next morning I called from the hospital parking lot during my break. Brandt Fertility Center, How can I create miracles for you today? I grimaced at the tagline. Hi Simone, it's Naomi. Derek wanted me to schedule an exam. Simone Rivera, 24, cheerful, always too friendly. There was a pause. Typing. Oh. Dr. Brandt already blocked out time for you. 3 o'clock. She said it's urgent. I frowned. I hadn't said it was urgent. I'm working until 6. She said to tell you she cleared it with your supervisor. You're covered. The line went dead. I stared at my phone. Patricia had called my supervisor? Arranged my schedule without asking? My abdomen cramped, sharp enough to make me gasp. Maybe it was urgent. At 2:45 p.m. I walked into Brandt Fertility Center. The building sat in Wauwatosa, all glass and steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Art prints of mothers holding babies. A waiting room full of hope. Simone greeted me at the desk. Dr. Brandt's waiting. Room 3. I followed the familiar hallway. I'd walked it so many times for consultations, procedures, appointments that ended with words like, next time, and don't give up. Patricia was already in the exam room. Crisp white coat. Silver hair pulled back. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Naomi. Let's take a look. The exam was quick. Clinical. Her hands were cold, pressing on my abdomen. Appendicitis, she said. Needs to come out today. I blinked. Today. I've already called St. Luke's. They're prepping a surgical suite. Shouldn't we wait? Get a second opinion. It could rupture. Patricia's voice was firm, maternal. Derek's already on his way. Trust me, sweetheart. She looked at me, then really looked at me. I know what's best. And because I'd always trusted doctors, because I'd always trusted family. I nodded. Derek arrived 20 minutes later, out of breath like he'd run from the hospital. He found me still sitting in the exam room, Patricia hovering by the door with paperwork already filled out. You okay? He asked, hand on my knee. I looked at him, really looked, and saw something I'd never noticed before. Relief. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Your appendix, Patricia said, not to me but to Derek. It's inflamed. We need to move now. Now. I said. Don't I sign consent forms? Talk to the surgeon. I am the surgeon. Patricia's smile was practiced, professional. And the consent is right here. She slid a clipboard across the exam table. The words blurred together. Medical jargon, risk disclosures, a signature line at the bottom. Derek squeezed my hand. Sign it, Naomi. Please. So I did. They wheeled me into an operating room I didn't recognize. Not St. Luke's, despite what Patricia had said. The walls were too white, the equipment too new. A nurse I'd never seen prepped my floor while Patricia scrubbed in behind a glass partition. Count backward from 10, someone said. I made it to 7. I woke up to voices I couldn't place. Muffled, distant, like hearing a conversation through water. Someone was crying. No, laughing. The sound scraped against my skull. My mouth tasted like copper and old bandages. I tried to open my eyes, but the lids weighed 1,000 pounds. She's waking up, a woman said. Not Patricia. Someone younger. Footsteps. A hand on my wrist, checking my pulse. Naomi. Derek's voice close to my ear. Can you hear me? I managed to crack my eyes open. Fluorescent lights. White ceiling tiles. The recovery room at. Where was I? Where? My voice came out like gravel. Shh. Don't talk. You're okay. Surgery went fine. Fine. The word sat wrong in my mouth. I tried to sit up. Pain exploded across my lower abdomen, different from the ache I'd felt before. Deeper. Like someone had reached inside me and rearranged everything. Easy. A nurse appeared, pressing me back against the pillows. Not someone from Aurora. A stranger. You need to rest. What time is it? Derek checked his phone. Almost 8. You've been out for 5 hours. 5 hours for an appendectomy? I pressed my hand against my stomach, felt the bandages through the thin hospital gown. 3 incision sites. I counted them through the gauze. 1 near my navel. 2 lower, just above my pelvis. 2 low. Derek. My throat was sandpaper. Where's my appendix? He blinked. What? Which side did they take it from? I don't know. Does it matter? Mattered. Your appendix sits on the right side, lower right quadrant. Every nursing student learns that first semester. But these incisions. I want to see Patricia. She had an emergency. Another patient. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. But she said you did great. Lost some blood but you're stable now. Lost blood. From an appendectomy. Something was wrong. I knew it the way you know you're about to throw up, that split second before your body betrays you. But Derek was holding my hand, stroking my hair, and the morphine was pulling me back under. Just rest, he whispered. I slept. The next 3 days were a blur of pain medication and Derek's hovering. He'd taken family leave, unpaid, we couldn't afford it, and barely left my side. Brought me water. Helped me to the bathroom. Changed the TV channel when I stared at the screen without seeing anything. Patricia visited twice. Both times she checked my incisions with gloved hands, her face unreadable. Healing beautifully, she said on day 2. You're very lucky. Lucky. I watched her rewrap the gauze, watched her dispose of the old bandages in the medical waste bin she'd brought with her. Like she didn't trust the hospital's disposal system. When can I see the pathology report? I asked. She paused, hands still on the bandage. Pathology. From my appendix. They send it to the lab, right? Check for abnormalities. Of course. He smiled, patted my hand. I'll have Simone send you a copy. He never did. On day 4 they discharged me. Derek drove me home in careful silence, avoiding potholes, taking corners like I was made of glass. The duplex felt smaller than I remembered. Darker. He'd set up the couch with pillows and blankets, a heating pad already warming. Thought you'd be more comfortable down here. Thanks. I lowered myself onto the cushions, biting back a gasp as pain radiated through my pelvis. Not the sharp surgical pain I expected. Something else. Something hollow. Derek brought me soup, crackers, pills in a little paper cup. He sat on the coffee table watching me like I might disappear. What? I said. Nothing. Just, I almost lost you. It was an appendectomy, Derek. Mom said there were complications. Internal bleeding. She had to. He stopped, shook his head. Doesn't matter. You're here. I set down the soup. What did she have to do? Fix it. She fixed it. But he wouldn't look at me. That night I woke at 2 a.m. to find Derek sitting in the dark living room, staring at nothing. Can't sleep. I asked from the couch. He jumped. Yeah. Well, just thinking. About what? Nothing important. I watched him in the dim light from the street lamp outside. His shoulders were hunched, hands clasped between his knees. He looked like a man at a funeral. Derek. What happened during my surgery? I told you. Complications. What kind? The medical kind. I don't know, Naomi. I'm not a surgeon. But your mother is. He stood abruptly. I'm going to bed. He left me there in the dark, listening to the house settle around me. I pressed my fingers against the lowest incision, the one that shouldn't exist for an appendectomy. Felt the ridge of stitches through the gauze. In nursing school they taught us to trust our instincts. Something feels wrong, investigate. Don't assume. Don't ignore the warning signs. I'd ignored the warning signs for months. Patricia's invasive questions. Derek's eagerness to let his mother handle my medical care. The way he'd showed up at the clinic like he'd been waiting for the call. I thought about the consent form I'd signed. The one I'd barely read. The next morning I called the hospital from the bathroom while Derek was in the shower. Aurora Medical Center, how can I direct your call? Medical records, please. The line clicked. Elevator music for 30 seconds, then, medical records, this is January. Hi. I need a copy of my surgical records from last week. Naomi Brandt. Typing. Pause. I'm not showing any procedures under your name in the past month. My stomach dropped. That's not possible. I had surgery on Tuesday. Emergency appendectomy. More typing. Longer pause. Ma'am, I'm showing you were admitted for observation on Tuesday, but no surgical procedures. Just monitoring and discharge. No. I had surgery. I have stitches. Let me check with my supervisor. I was put on hold. The bathroom door rattled. Naomi? You okay in there? Fine, I called. Just a minute. The line clicked back. Ma'am, our supervisor says your procedure was performed at a private facility. We have a transfer notation but no records. You'll need to contact the facility directly. What facility? It doesn't specify. I'm sorry. I hung up as Derek knocked again. Naomi. I opened the door. He stood there in a towel, hair dripping, concern carved into his face. You sure you're okay? I looked at my husband, 12 years of marriage, 12 years of trust, and realized I didn't know him at all. Perfect, I said. Never better. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in the dark next to Derek, listening to him breathe, slow and steady the way innocent people sleep. Every few minutes he'd shift, throw an arm across his eyes, settle back into whatever dreams didn't include his wife's mutilated body. 10 weeks. Simone's announcement played on loop in my head. 10 weeks pregnant. The timeline sat in my chest like a stone. I counted backward from the dinner. September, August, July. 10 weeks ago I'd been on an operating table. Unconscious. Patricia's toast echoed, miracles of modern medicine. The way Derek wouldn't look at me when she said it. I got up at 3 a.m., careful not to wake him. The bathroom door locked with a quiet click. I turned on the exhaust fan to cover any sound. My hands shook as I pulled up my nightshirt. The incisions were healing, pink and puckered, about 3 weeks old. I'd been telling myself they were appendectomy scars. That Patricia had done exactly what she said. But I was done lying to myself. I traced the lowest incision with my fingertip. Too low. Way too low for an appendix. The placement was unmistakable now. Laparoscopic entry points. Lower abdomen. Pelvic region. I opened my phone, typed, laparoscopic oophorectomy scars. The images loaded. Perfect match. 3 small incisions. 1 at the navel. 2 in the lower pelvis. They didn't take my appendix. They took my ovaries. My eggs. Everything. I slid down onto the bathroom floor, phone clutched in my hand, and pressed my fist against my mouth to keep from screaming. The next morning I called in sick to work. Actually sick this time. I'd been vomiting since 5 a.m., my body finally catching up to what my mind had realized. Derek found me on the bathroom floor around 7, curled against the base of the toilet. Jesus, Naomi. He crouched beside me. I'm taking you to the ER. No. The word came out sharper than I meant it. It's just a stomach bug, I said softer. I'm fine. You're not fine. I said no. I looked at him. The concern was real. Or maybe just good acting. I don't want to go to any hospital. He hovered, uncertain. I'll stay home. Don't. You can't keep missing work. We need the money. That landed. We were drowning in IVF debt. Call if you need anything, he said. His car pulled out at 7:43. At 7:44 I was on the phone. Liz Chin answered on the 3rd ring. Naomi? It's barely 8. I need a favor. Off the record. Liz had been my study partner in nursing school. We'd lost touch after graduation, but I knew she'd understand. I told her everything. The surgery. The vague records. Patricia's involvement. The scars that didn't match. Silence. Liz. Naomi. Her voice was careful. If what you're suggesting is true, that's a felony. Multiple felonies. I need to know for sure. You need to go to the police. I need proof first. She was quiet. I heard typing. Give me 48 hours, she said. I'll pull your records. But if I find what I think I'm going to find, you have to report this. I promise. Another lie. The next 2 days were performance art. I smiled at Derek over breakfast. Accepted Patricia's daily check-in calls. Yes, I'm feeling better. No, the incisions are healing fine. Simone stopped by Tuesday with a baby magazine and soup. Thought you might want to see nursery ideas. I thumbed through the magazine while cataloging every detail. The way she touched her stomach constantly. The guilty glances. The specific questions about my recovery. Can I ask you something? Simone said quietly. My pulse quickened. Sure. Do you ever regret the IVF? All those tries. Such a specific question. Why would I regret trying to have a family? She looked away. No reason. Just, it's a lot to go through. Nothing. She stood abruptly, grabbed her purse. I should go. She left before I could ask anything else. Derek's phone buzzed constantly those 2 days. He took calls in the garage, the basement, outside. I heard him through the walls, voice low and urgent. Patricia's questions got more specific. Any cramping? Spotting? Changes in your cycle? My cycle. The thing I wouldn't have anymore. Everything's fine, I told her. Thursday night, Derek was at a work dinner. I sat alone in the dark kitchen. Liz called at 8:47 p.m. I got your records. Her voice was wrong. Too tight. Tell me. Sit down. I'm sitting. The surgery wasn't at St. Luke's. It was at Brant Fertility Center. And it wasn't an appendectomy. I closed my eyes. What did they take? Everything. Bilateral oophorectomy. Complete egg retrieval, 22 eggs. The transfer documentation lists a designated recipient, but the name's redacted. 22 eggs. Everything. Did you consent? No. Then this is medical battery. Reproductive coercion. You need to report this tonight. Not yet. If I go to the police, they'll destroy evidence. I need more. You have enough. I need to know who the recipient was. I need proof of intent. What are you planning? I don't know yet, but I'm not letting them get away with this. Derek came home at 11:30, smelling like wine and guilt. He sat on the bed. How was your day? I looked at this man I'd loved for 12 years, who'd let his mother steal my body. Fine. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. I've been thinking, maybe we should stop trying. For a baby. Maybe it's not meant to be. Something inside me went very still. Why now? Because I almost lost you. His thumb rubbed my knuckle, that nervous tell when he lied. That surgery was close. Okay, I said softly. We can stop. Relief flooded his face. He kissed my forehead, whispered, I love you, went to shower. I lay there in the dark and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them. I was going to smile. Play along. Gather every piece of evidence. Then I was going to burn their world down. I started what I privately called the performance the next morning. Sitting at the kitchen table with coffee I couldn't taste, I typed out a text to Simone. Hey. Would love to grab coffee and hear about the pregnancy. I know things have been weird with my recovery, but I'm so happy for you. My thumb hovered over send. Everything in me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I pressed send and watched the message turn blue. She responded within 2 minutes. OMG, yes. When? We met at a cafe in Bayview on Saturday morning. I got there early, ordered decaf tea, sat by the window where the autumn light made everything look softer than it was. Simone arrived 10 minutes late, flushed. Sorry, morning sickness is no joke. She was showing now. Just barely. A small curve under her loose sweater that she touched constantly, unconsciously. I smiled. Hugged her like we were friends. I asked all the right questions. How are you feeling? Any cravings? Which doctor are you seeing? Dr. Brant, of course. Simone's face lit up. She's been incredible. She said this baby is special. The word hung between us. Special how? I kept my voice light. Simone hesitated. Just that the IVF worked so well. First try. She called it a miracle. I nodded. Took a sip of tea. Hid the rage burning in my chest. You're lucky to have her. Over the next month, I became Simone's unexpected confidant. I brought her prenatal vitamins. I had extras from my IVF days. She teared up. I offered to go to appointments with her. Asked about nursery colors, sent her links to cribs on sale. She started stopping by the house. Always with some excuse, but really I think looking for permission. One afternoon in early November she sat in my living room with tea I'd made her. I never thought you'd be this nice to me, she said quietly. Why wouldn't I be? My hands shook pouring my own tea. You know Derek and I. She stared into her mug. We're not together. We were never really together. My pulse jumped. What do you mean? It was just a few times. Last year. He was going through something with the IVF failures and she stopped. God, I'm sorry. You don't want to hear this. It's okay. I sat down, every muscle coiled tight. I'm not angry. I just want to understand. This pregnancy, it's from IVF. Not from us. Dr. Brant said she had a donor lined up, everything arranged. I thought it was anonymous. Every word recorded on the phone hidden in my purse. You deserve to be a mother, I told her. She cried. I handed her tissues. She had no idea what she'd just given me. Meanwhile, I went to Dr. Sarah Okafor. Sarah had been my doctor for 8 years. Nigerian, straightforward, the kind of doctor who made you trust her immediately. I told her everything in her exam room. Showed her the scars. Sarah's face went pale. Naomi, this is criminal. You need to file a police report. I need medical proof first. Something beyond the surgical records. He studied me. What are you planning? Make sure they can't do it to anyone else. Sarah ordered a full hormone panel. I came back 3 days later. She slid the printout across her desk. FSH. 104.3 myo/ml. Postmenopausal range. LH. 49.7 myo/ml. Postmenopausal range. Estradiol. 12 pg/ml. Undetectable. They didn't just take eggs, Sarah said quietly. They took both ovaries. Complete bilateral oophorectomy. You're in surgical menopause. You'll need hormone replacement therapy for the rest of your life. Can I get copies? He printed them. 3 pages of evidence. I left with a folder and a prescription for estrogen patches we couldn't afford. I filled it anyway. Put it on the credit card Derek didn't know about. At home, the distance between us grew. Derek worked late constantly. Hospital meetings. Training sessions. He'd come home after 10, eat standing at the counter, shower, sleep. Patricia's calls stopped. Apparently satisfied I wasn't making trouble. I used the space to dig. I found records on an old laptop Derek had forgotten about, buried in a folder labeled Tax Documents 2019. Transfers to Brant Fertility Center. $75,000 over the past year. Noted as family loan. We didn't have $75,000. I found emails. Derek to Patricia 6 months before my surgery. Mom, we can't keep doing this to her. 4 failures is enough. Patricia's response. Trust me. I have a plan. By next year you'll have everything you've ever wanted. I photographed everything. Backed it up to 3 cloud drives under email addresses Derek didn't know existed. One night in mid-November I found him in the garage at midnight, sitting in his car in the dark. I brought him a beer. Sat in the passenger seat. You okay? He stared ahead. Yeah. Just tired. Derek. He looked at me then and I saw that flash of the man I'd married. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't ask what for. Not yet. By week 10 I had everything. Medical records from Liz. Hormone panels from Sarah. Financial documents. Emails. Recorded conversations with Simone. Photographs of the incisions. I stored it all in a safety deposit box at a bank in West Dallas. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed to know who the father was. Needed to understand how deep this went. That's when I remembered something Patricia had said years ago when Richard was dying. Richard Brandt had been a doctor too. Patricia's partner. And before the cancer took him, he'd stored sperm samples. Just in case, Patricia had said. I'd thought it was sentimental. Now I understood. I needed DNA. Needed proof before that baby was born. I texted Simone, would love to throw you a baby shower. Let me take care of everything. Her response came immediately, really? That's so sweet. Yes. I stared at the screen. Phase 2 begins. Planning a baby shower required help. Real help. 3 days after Simone said yes, I met Marcus Webb at a diner off I-94 20 miles from Milwaukee. Far enough that no one we knew would see us. He was already there when I arrived, 50-something, gray beard, the kind of face that had seen too much and stopped being surprised. Former cop, Liz had said. Specialized in digging up what people wanted buried. I slid into the booth across from him. Set an envelope on the table between the salt shaker and the ketchup. $1,500, I said. Cash. Half your retainer. He didn't touch it. What do you need? Everything on Dr. Patricia Brandt and Brandt Fertility Center. Malpractice suits, complaints, financial records, patient testimonies. Marcus leaned back, studied me. What am I looking for specifically? Evidence of unauthorized procedures. Other women she's done this to. This about you? I held his gaze. Does it matter? Helps to know motivation. Keeps me from being blindsided. So I told him. The abbreviated version. Surgery I didn't consent to, eggs harvested, fertility stolen. I left out the part about Simone, about the baby that might be mine. Marcus's jaw tightened. When I finished, he picked up the envelope, tucked it into his jacket. I've seen a lot, Mrs. Brandt. Domestic cases, fraud, corruption. This is one of the worst. Can you find what I need? Give me 3 weeks. I paid for his coffee. On the drive home, my hands shook so badly I had to pull over at a gas station. Sat there with the engine running, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. This was real now. I'd hired someone. Paid money. We didn't have to prove my husband and his mother had butchered me. There was no going back. 2 weeks later, Marcus called. You were right. She's done this before. We met at a different diner, this one in Waukesha. He slid a folder across the table, thick, organized with tabs. I opened it. Complaints filed with the Wisconsin Medical Examining Board. 3 women over 5 years, all alleging Patricia performed unauthorized egg retrievals during routine procedures. Appendectomies, cyst removals, exploratory surgeries, all settled out of court with NDAs. Why wasn't her license revoked? I flipped through pages, reading names, dates, settlement amounts. Husband was well connected, Marcus said. Richard Brandt knew everyone, hospital boards, state regulators. Money makes problems disappear. After he died, the complaints stopped. I think she got more careful. He tapped one name. This woman, Angela Torres. Lives in Wauwatosa. Her settlement was smallest, $40,000. She might talk. I stared at the address. Less than 10 miles from my house. Can you find the others? Already did. I'll email you contacts. He paused. Naomi, first time he'd used my first name. These women are traumatized. Approaching them is delicate. I'm not going to hurt them. I know. But they signed NDAs. They're scared. I'm going to help them get justice. Marcus nodded slowly. Then you better be ready for what that looks like. I reached out to Angela Torres through Facebook. Non-threatening. I'm gathering information about Dr. Patricia Brandt. If you're willing to talk, no pressure, I'd be grateful. 3 days of silence. Then, coffee. We met at her house. A small bungalow in Wauwatosa with kids' toys scattered in the front yard. A plastic slide. A tricycle on its side. Angela answered the door in jeans and a UW Milwaukee sweatshirt. 39 Marcus's notes had said. Paralegal. 2 kids from a second marriage. She made coffee. We sat at her kitchen table. Patricia told me I was having a routine cyst removal, Angela said, hands wrapped around her mug. I was 29. Engaged. Planning to wait a few years before kids. I woke up and couldn't have kids anymore. She'd taken everything. Her voice was flat. Practiced. Like she'd told this story before. The settlement barely covered my therapy bills, she continued. My fiancé left 6 months later. Said he wanted biological children. I don't blame him. My chest tightened. Did you ever find out why she did it? Angela's laugh was bitter. Her clinic was failing financially. She was harvesting eggs, selling them to couples who could pay. I was just inventory. I told her my story then. All of it. The surgery. The lies. Simone's pregnancy. By the end we were both crying. I'm finding the others, I said. I want to expose her. For all of us. Angela wiped her eyes. Count me in. Over the next month, Marcus located 2 more victims. Rachel Kim. Teacher in Madison. 34. Patricia had performed an emergency appendectomy during what was supposed to be a routine gallbladder check. Rachel woke up sterile. Settlement. $85,000. NDA for life. Jennifer Schultz. Social worker in Green Bay. 41. Patricia had removed precancerous ovarian tissue without consent during a fibroid surgery. The tissue wasn't cancerous. Jennifer got $60,000 in a gag order. I created a private Facebook group. Invited them all. The first video call was devastating. 4 women sitting in front of laptop cameras in different cities, sharing identical trauma. Rachel sobbed through her entire story. Jennifer couldn't speak for the first 10 minutes. Angela held up a photo of the child she'd never gotten to have. A ghost baby, she called it. I told them about Simone. About the baby. About the DNA test I was planning. If we coordinate our testimonies, combine our evidence, we can get her license revoked. Possibly criminal charges. Rachel wiped her eyes. I signed an NDA. I could lose everything. So could I said. But how many more women will she hurt if we stay quiet? Silence. Then Jennifer, her voice steady, I'm in. Rachel, me too. Angela, let's bury her. The alliance changed everything. I wasn't alone anymore. We met weekly via video. Shared evidence. Strategized. Angela, with her legal background, helped us understand statutes of limitations. We had time but not unlimited time. Rachel researched medical board procedures, found the forms we'd need to file complaints. Jennifer connected us with a journalist at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel who'd investigated medical fraud before. I coordinated it all. Built a case file that grew thicker each week. But the emotional toll was crushing. Some nights I lay awake, hormone patches on my arms, Derek asleep beside me, and thought about the children I'd never carry. The babies I'd imagined. The life stolen from me. Other nights, I looked at the group chat. Angela sharing a dark humor meme about fertility doctors, Rachel sending prayer hands emojis, Jennifer posting photos of her nieces with fighting for them too. And felt something close to hope. We had each other now. For women who'd been violated by the same monster. For women who'd signed NDAs and swallowed their rage and tried to move on. We weren't moving on anymore. We were building a case. Gathering evidence. Planning exposure. And together we were going to make Patricia Brandt answer for every woman she'd ever violated. But first I needed one more piece. The final piece. I planned the baby shower with the kind of meticulous care surgeons use before cutting into someone's body. Every detail mattered. Every moment counted. I rented a private room at a lakeside restaurant in Shorewood. White tablecloths, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen water. Enough space for 30 people. Sent invitations to Simone's co-workers, Patricia's friends from the country club, Derek's cousins. Made it look generous. Made it look real. Derek found the credit card statement on the kitchen counter. I'd left it there on purpose. You're throwing Simone a shower? He looked up from the paper, confused. Why wouldn't I? I smiled. She's carrying your child, isn't she? The words were razors wrapped in kindness. Derek shifted. That's generous of you. I'm full of surprises. The shower cost $1,200, charged to our joint account. Let him see it. Let him wonder if I'd finally accepted this nightmare as normal. I ordered pink and white decorations. A cake shaped like a stork. Games about baby names and nursery themes. Everything Pinterest perfect. Everything calculated. The gift I'd chosen for Simone sat wrapped in silver paper in my closet. A top-of-the-line baby monitor with app connectivity, motion sensors, temperature alerts. Retail price $340. It required smartphone setup. I was counting on it. The shower was on a Sunday afternoon in late November. 30 women filled the room. Simone's co-workers from the clinic, Patricia's country club friends in cashmere and pearls, Derek's cousins who barely knew Simone but showed up for the free champagne. I played hostess flawlessly. Refilled glasses, champagne for them, sparkling cider for Simone. Directed games. Laughed at appropriate moments. Complimented Patricia's dress. Hugged Simone when she arrived, 7 months pregnant and glowing. Patricia watched me the entire time. Narrow eyes. Suspicious of this sudden warmth. Good. Let her wonder. I can't believe you did all this, Simone whispered during cake, her hand on my arm. You've been so amazing through everything. I squeezed her hand. Your family. The word tasted like poison going down. Later, during gift opening, Simone unwrapped the baby monitor. Her eyes went wide. Oh wow, this is top of the line. Let me help you set up the app, I offered immediately. It's tricky. We sat together on the couch, surrounded by crumpled wrapping paper and cooing women. I pulled out my phone, guided Simone through the installation process. You'll need to register it first. Create an account. Here, let me type that for you. Use my email for now, we'll switch it to yours later. Simone handed over her phone without hesitation. I worked quickly. Fingers steady. Years of starting IVs and drawing blood had taught me precision under pressure. While typing in fake account information, I reached for Simone's water glass. Oh, let me move that so it doesn't spill. And palmed the cotton swab I'd hidden in my sleeve. One quick swipe along the rim where her lipstick marked the glass. Sleight of hand learned from nursing. Fast. Invisible. The DNA sample went into a small plastic bag in my purse. Nobody noticed. That night I sat in my car outside a CVS on the west side of town, under a streetlight that buzzed and flickered. 3 samples carefully packaged. The swab from Simone's glass. A Q-tip I'd run along Derek's toothbrush that morning while he showered. My own cheek swab, taken in the CVS bathroom 10 minutes ago. I addressed 3 separate envelopes. Link. Ancestry DNA. A clinical lab Liz had recommended that specialized in paternity testing. Redundancy. I couldn't risk contamination. Couldn't risk error. Expedited results. 2 weeks. $800 total across all 3 tests. I paid cash at the post office. Dropped them in the overnight slot. Driving home I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was orchestrating. Derek was waiting up when I got home, sitting on the couch with the TV on mute. How'd it go? Perfect. I set down my purse, hung up my coat. Simone loved everything. You're being really understanding about all this. He was fishing. Worried. I crossed the room, kissed his cheek. I've accepted it, Derek. This is our life now. The relief in his eyes was immediate. The guilt beneath it still there. He had no idea what was coming. The waiting was agony. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. I threw myself into work. Picked up every extra shift Carol offered. Worked through Thanksgiving. Let Derek go to Patricia's without me, claimed I was too tired. Avoided him at home. Maintained my friendship with Simone. We texted daily now. She sent ultrasound photos, grainy images of tiny feet, a profile shot, the technician's measurement notes. Complained about swollen ankles. Asked my opinion on pediatricians. I responded to every message. Warm. Supportive. Each word a performance. Meanwhile, the alliance intensified. Angelo, Rachel, Jennifer, and I had hired Diane Patel, a lawyer who specialized in medical malpractice and reproductive rights. Ruthless. Expensive. This is prosecutable, Diane said during a video call, her face pixelated on my laptop screen. But we need something definitive. DNA proof connecting Patricia's clinic to unauthorized embryo creation. I'm working on it, I said. I didn't tell them how. Some things were too dark to share even with allies who understood. 1 week before the results were due, Patricia invited us to dinner. To celebrate the baby coming soon, she said on the phone, voice bright. I accepted. We went on a Tuesday night. Patricia's house was warm, decorated for Christmas already. White lights, a tree in the corner, the smell of roasting meat. He was expansive. Drinking wine. Talking about Richard. He would have loved this grandchild, she said, refilling her glass. He always wanted Derek to have children. Was so disappointed when the IVF kept failing. She looked at me when she said it. I smiled. Sipped my water. Richard stored samples, you know, Patricia continued. Before the cancer. Just in case medical science advanced enough. He was always thinking ahead. Something in her tone made my skin crawl. Derek shifted beside me, uncomfortable. That was smart, I said evenly. Patricia smiled. He was a brilliant man. The DNA results arrived on Thursday, December 14th. I was at work, restocking a supply cart on the 4th floor, when my phone buzzed 3 times in rapid succession. 3 emails. 3 companies. All within an hour. I abandoned the cart. Locked myself in the supply closet. Hands shaking so badly I could barely open the attachments. First file, genome link. Child is biologically related to Naomi Brandt. Maternal match. 99.9%. I already knew that. Expected it. Second file, ancestry DNA. Paternal match. No relation to Derek Brandt. My vision blurred. Third file, clinical lab. Paternal match. Richard Brandt, deceased, reference sample from genealogy database. The phone slipped from my hands. Patricia had used her dead husband's sperm. Derek's father. The baby wasn't Derek's child. It was his half-sister. I slid down the wall, phone on the floor beside me, and started laughing. Not funny laughter. The kind that sounds like breaking. Patricia hadn't just stolen my eggs. She'd used them to continue her husband's genetic line. To create a child from her dead husband and her daughter-in-law's stolen body. She'd made Derek believe he was going to be a father. When really he was going to be a brother. It wasn't just medical fraud. It was genetic incest. And I had proof. I didn't tell anyone about the DNA results. Not Derek. Not Angela, Rachel, or Jennifer. Not even Diane or Kayla. Not yet. I printed 3 copies of each report, 9 pages total, black and white, damning. Stored them in separate locations. One set in the safety deposit box in West Allis. One with Liz at her law office in Madison. One with Diane Patel, sealed in an envelope marked, "Do not open until January 20th. Difference. Redundancy. Protection. Then I moved through December like a ghost. I attended Simone's final prenatal appointments, sitting in the waiting room with pregnancy magazines I didn't read. I helped Derek assemble a crib in our guest room. White wood, convertible, expensive. "She'll need somewhere to stay when she visits," he said, wrestling with the instruction manual. I handed him the Allen wrench. The absurdity of it would be funny if it weren't so vile. Derek building furniture for his half-sister while believing she was his daughter. Measuring out space for a child created from his dead father's sperm and his wife's stolen eggs. I watched him struggle with the pieces, saw the hope in his eyes every time he got a section right. Felt nothing. The man I'd loved was gone. What remained was a stranger who'd let his mother butcher me. One night he caught me staring at him from the doorway. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Just thinking about the future." He smiled. "Thought I meant our future." I met with Diane and Kayla at a coffee shop in Madison 2 days before Christmas. Neutral ground. Far from Milwaukee. Far from anyone who might recognize us. I brought everything. Medical records in a 3-ring binder. Financial transfers highlighted in yellow. Emails printed and organized by date. The testimonies from Angela, Rachel, and Jennifer. Typed, signed, notarized. And the DNA results still crisp from the printer. Kayla Henderson was maybe 35, sharp eyes, recorder already running when I sat down. She read through the DNA results twice. "This is Pulitzer level," she said quietly. "When do you want to go public?" "Not yet." Diane frowned. "Naomi, every day we wait is another day she could destroy evidence." "She won't." My voice was ice. "She thinks she's won. She thinks I've accepted this. I want her exposed in front of everyone who's ever respected her." I told them about the gala. Patricia's clinic's 25th anniversary fundraiser on January 20th. Black tie. 300 guests. Every major donor, every medical professional in Wisconsin. Politicians. Hospital board members. The people whose respect Patricia valued more than anything. "I'm going as Derek's wife," I said. "I'm going to smile and drink champagne and wait for her speech. And then I'm going to take the microphone." Kayla grinned. "I like the way you think." Diane was more cautious. "It's risky. Legally, I mean. If you confront her publicly before filing charges." "Your article publishes the morning after," I said to Kayla. "Diane, you file criminal complaints with the DA and medical board the same morning. I detonate everything in person the night before. By the time the sun comes up, she's finished." Diane studied me. "You've thought this through." "I've thought about nothing else for 4 months." We finalized the plan. Timelines. Contingencies. What to do if Patricia tried to have me removed from the event. When we finished, Kayla reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "You're the bravest person I've ever met." I pulled my hand back. "I'm not brave. I'm just done being quiet." Christmas came. Derek and I exchanged gifts in our living room with the tree lights blinking and carols playing from his phone. He gave me a necklace. White gold. Small diamond pendant. Expensive. Gilt wrapped in velvet. "It's beautiful," I said and let him fasten it around my neck. I gave him a watch. Practical. Meaningless. "You shouldn't have," he said, but he was smiling. We went to Patricia's house for dinner. The whole family. Derek's cousins, his aunt, Simone looking like she might go into labor any second, belly so swollen she couldn't get comfortable in any chair. Patricia toasted new beginnings and family legacies. Everyone raised their glasses. I raised mine. Sipped sparkling cider. Watched. Derek's cousins cooed over Simone's belly, asked to feel the baby kick. Patricia held court at the head of the table, talking about the clinic's success, the gala coming up, how proud Richard would be. I sat there with my fork in my hand and studied her. This woman who'd stolen my body. My future. My DNA. Patricia caught me looking. Raised her glass in my direction. "To Naomi," she said, voice carrying over the conversation. for being so gracious through all of this. Everyone turned, smiled at me, drank. I smiled back. I learned from the best, Patricia. You've taught me so much about family. The double meaning landed. Patricia's smile faltered. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see it. Then she recovered. Laughed. You're too kind, dear. But I held her gaze. And in that moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in Patricia Brandt's eyes. Fear. Good. Let her wonder what I meant. Let her lie awake tonight trying to figure out if I knew. Simone went into labor on January 8th. A week early. Derek called me from the hospital, voice shaking. It's happening. Can you come? I drove to Aurora Medical Center. Walked through the maternity ward where I'd worked for 12 years. Past nurses I knew. Jennifer gave me a sympathetic smile. Carol squeezed my shoulder. Into a private birthing suite. Simone was in labor. Epidural in. Derek holding her hand. Patricia directing the medical team like a general commanding troops. I stayed in the corner. Silent. Watching. 7 hours later the baby arrived. A girl. 7 pounds 3 ounces. Perfect. They named her Lily. Derek cried holding her. Patricia took photos beaming. Simone, exhausted and pale, asked if I wanted to hold the baby. I stepped forward. Took Lily, this child made from my eggs, Richard's sperm, born from Simone's body, raised by Derek who didn't know the truth. He was so small. Warm. Her eyes half open, unfocused. I looked down at her face and saw none of them. Just an innocent baby. She's beautiful, I whispered. And I meant it. This child was a victim too. Over the next 12 days I visited the hospital daily. Brought Simone food from the cafeteria. Helped with feedings. Took photos of Derek holding Lily, of Patricia fussing over her granddaughter, of Simone looking exhausted but happy. I was documenting everything. But I was also saying goodbye. To the family I'd thought I'd have. To the people I'd thought I knew. On January 19th, the night before the gala, I packed a small bag. 3 USB drives with all the evidence labeled and organized. Printed copies of the DNA results in a leather folder. A prepared speech on index cards. I'd practiced it 50 times in front of the bathroom mirror. I laid out my dress for tomorrow. Navy blue. Elegant. Armor. Derek was already asleep when I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not to him. To Lily. You didn't ask to be born from cruelty. Neither did I. But we're both here now. And I'm going to make sure the people who did this answer for it. Not for revenge. For you. So you grow up in a world where women's bodies are not commodities. Where trust means something. I'm sorry for what's coming. But silence would be worse. Naomi. I sealed it. Addressed it to Diane Patel with instructions. Give this to Lily on her 18th birthday. Then I went to bed. Lay beside Derek in the dark. Listened to him breathe. Tomorrow I would burn it all down. I didn't sleep. Lay there in the dark listening to Derek breathe, watching the clock on the nightstand count down the hours. 3:47 a.m. 4:22 a.m. 5:16 a.m. 6 I got up. Showered. Did my makeup carefully. Foundation, concealer, lipstick the color of wine. Put on the navy dress. Fastened the necklace Derek had given me for Christmas around my throat. Armor. The Brandt Fertility Center's 25th anniversary gala was held at the Pfister Hotel in downtown Milwaukee. Grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers. A string quartet playing Vivaldi when we arrived. I walked in on Derek's arm wearing his gilt around my neck. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you. The room was full. 300 people. Doctors in tuxedos, philanthropists in diamonds, politicians working the crowd. Hospital board members. Patricia's country club friends. Everyone who mattered in Wisconsin medicine. A banner hung across the stage. 25 years of making miracles. Patricia stood by the bar in crimson silk holding court. Surrounded by admirers congratulating her, toasting her vision, her dedication, her legacy. I checked my phone. Text from Kayla. In position. Photographer ready. Text from Diane. Paperwork filed. Hit Stace desk 9 a.m. tomorrow. Text from Marcus outside. Police contacts on standby. Alliance watching livestream. You're good to go. I slipped the phone back into my clutch. Derek kissed my temple. You okay? Never better. A waiter passed with champagne. I took a glass I wouldn't drink. Dinner was served at 7. Filet mignon. Roasted vegetables. Speeches between courses. A hospital CO stood, tapped his glass. Dr. Patricia Brandt has dedicated her life to helping families achieve their dreams. Her innovation, her compassion, her unwavering commitment to reproductive medicine. Applause. A state senator rose next. In my 20 years in public service, I've never met anyone who's brought more joy to Wisconsin families. More applause. Then Patricia stood. The room quieted. All eyes on her. She looked radiant. Confident. Untouchable. 25 years ago, she began, my husband Richard and I opened a small clinic with a big dream. We wanted to help people build families. Create legacies. Give hope to those who thought they had none. I set down my fork. Richard isn't here tonight. But I know he'd be so proud of what we've built. We don't just create embryos. We create futures. The room applauded. I stood. Derek grabbed my wrist. What are you doing? I pulled free. Walked toward the stage. Patricia saw me approaching. Paused mid-sentence, confused. I climbed the stairs. Took the microphone from her hand. I'd like to say a few words, I said. Voice steady. Come. Patricia's smile froze. Naomi, this isn't. Please. Indulge me. I turned to the audience. After all, I'm family. The room murmured. I looked out at 300 faces. Saw Derek standing at our table, face white. Saw Diane in the back, phone out. Saw Marcus at the AV booth, hand on the controls. My name is Naomi Brandt, I said. 12 years ago I married Patricia's son, Derek. And 4 months ago, Patricia performed surgery on me without my consent. Silence. Complete silence. She told me it was an appendectomy. It wasn't. She performed a bilateral oophorectomy, harvested 22 of my eggs and stole my fertility. I didn't consent to any of it. Patricia lunged for the microphone. I stepped back. Derek was frozen at our table. You're confused, Patricia said, voice shaking. You signed consent forms. I signed nothing. And I have proof. I nodded to Marcus. The screen behind us flickered to life. Medical records appeared. My surgical notes from Brandt Fertility Center. Hormone panels showing surgical menopause. Transfer documentation listing designated recipient. Then the DNA results. 3 separate reports. Link. Ancestry DNA. The clinical lab. All showing the same conclusion. The baby born 2 weeks ago, Lily Brandt, is biologically mine, I said. But the father isn't Derek. Gasps rippled through the room. The father is Richard Brandt, Patricia's deceased husband. Derek's father. Derek stood. That's impossible. It's genetic incest, I said, voice cutting through the noise. Patricia used frozen sperm from her husband's fertility storage to create a child with my stolen eggs. Derek, you're not Lily's father. You're her half-brother. The room erupted. Shouting. Camera flashes. Chairs scraping. Patricia lunged for me, screaming. You're lying. You signed consent. You wanted this. Marcus moved in, physically blocking her. I kept talking, amplified by the microphone. She's done this before. To at least 3 other women. The screen changed. Angela Torres. Rachel Kim. Jennifer Schultz. Their photos. Their testimonies. Their medical records. She harvested their eggs without consent, sold them, destroyed their fertility, and paid them to stay quiet. I have documented proof of medical fraud, reproductive coercion, and conspiracy. Diane stood from her table in the back. The Milwaukee District Attorney's Office will be filing criminal charges tomorrow morning, she said, voice carrying. The Wisconsin Medical Examining Board is being notified tonight. Patricia collapsed into a chair. Makeup running. Hands shaking. Derek pushed through the crowd toward me. You knew. His voice broke. All this time. Yes. And you didn't tell me? You didn't tell me your mother butchered me. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Security moved in, trying to restore order. But it was chaos. Guests were leaving. Phones out. Recording everything. Kayla's photographer was capturing it all. I stepped off the stage. Walked past Patricia, sobbing, ruined. Past Derek, staring at his hands like they were covered in blood. I found Simone in the crowd. Holding Lily. Tears streaming down her face. Did you know? I asked quietly. Simone shook her head. I swear. He told me it was an anonymous donor. I believe you. And I did. Simone was a victim too. We'll figure out custody. Later. Right now take Lily home. Simone nodded. Clutched the baby. I walked out of the ballroom. Through the hotel lobby. Into the freezing January night. Marcus was waiting with the car. You did it, he said. I got in. Closed my eyes. And finally let myself cry. Not from sadness. From relief. It was done. They'd all answer now. Marcus drove me to Liz's apartment in Madison. Didn't ask questions. Just drove while I cried in the passenger seat, mascara running, the necklace Derek gave me still cold against my throat. I stayed there that night. And the next. And the one after that. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel's front page on January 21st had my face on it. Not a flattering photo. Me at the gala mid-sentence on that stage, microphone in hand. The headline screamed, "Prominent fertility doctor accused of reproductive coercion, genetic fraud." Kayla's article was devastating. Every detail. Every violation. Interviews with me, Angela, Rachel, Jennifer. Photos from the gala. Patricia's face as I took the microphone, the DNA results projected on the screen. The medical records. The financial transfers. Everything. By noon it was national news. CNN ran it with the Chirin, Wisconsin fertility scandal. NBC led with, "Doctor accused of stealing eggs." Fox called it, "Genetic incest scheme exposed." My phone exploded. Calls from reporters, lawyers, distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, former classmates wanting the story. I turned it off. Sat on Liz's couch in sweatpants and one of her old college hoodies. Liz brought me coffee. Sat beside me. The DA's office issued a statement, she said gently. They're opening a criminal investigation. Patricia's clinic is shut down pending review. I nodded. Numb. What about Derek? He filed for divorce yesterday. Through his lawyer. No personal contact. 12 years of marriage ended by paperwork. How do you feel? Liz asked. I stared into my coffee. Empty. The Wisconsin Medical Examining Board held an emergency hearing 3 days later. Diane Patel represented me, Angela, Rachel, and Jennifer. We watched via live stream from Liz's living room, all of us on video call together. Patricia's lawyer was some expensive guy from Chicago. Silver hair. Tailored suit. He argued she was being targeted by disgruntled former patients, that the procedures were consensual misunderstandings. Diane stood up. Presented the evidence methodically, clinically. Unauthorized surgical notes showing Patricia performed oophorectomies labeled as appendectomies. Financial records proving she'd paid women to stay quiet. $40,000 to Angela, $60,000 to Jennifer, $85,000 to Rachel. Emails where Patricia discussed harvesting opportunities and maximizing egg retrieval from routine procedures. This isn't medicine, Diane said, her voice cutting through the courtroom. This is assault with a scalpel. The board deliberated for 40 minutes. Then they voted. Unanimously. Patricia's medical license. Suspended immediately pending criminal trial. Angela texted the group chat. We did it. Rachel, she can't hurt anyone else now. Jennifer, thank you Naomi. For being brave enough to go first. I typed back, thank you for trusting me. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt gutted. Winning doesn't undo what was done. It doesn't give you back your ovaries, your eggs, your chance at carrying a child. It just means the person who took them finally has to answer for it. Derek contacted me in mid-February. Not directly. Through his lawyer. A formal request to meet. I said yes. We met at a park bench by Lake Michigan on a Thursday afternoon. February cold, wind off the water cutting through my coat. He was already there when I arrived. Sitting hunched, hands in his pockets. He looked wrecked, unshaven, thinner, hollow-eyed like he hadn't slept in weeks. I didn't know, he said the second I sat down. About the surgery, the eggs, the sperm. I swear, Naomi. I didn't know. I studied him. Tried to find the man I'd married in this broken stranger. But you knew something was wrong, I said. He nodded. Couldn't meet my eyes. Mom said the IVF failures were your fault. That your body wasn't viable. I believed her. His voice cracked. And when she said she could help Simone, I thought. You thought what? That you'd get a child without dealing with your infertile wife. The words came out like acid. He flinched. I was weak. I wanted to be a father so badly. And Mom made it sound so simple. I didn't ask questions I should have asked. You let her cut me open and steal my body. I know. He was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked out at the frozen lake. Gray water. Gray sky. Do you love Lily? He went very still. She's my sister, he said. The word broke him. How do I even process that? She's my daughter and my sister and I can't. I don't know, Derek. But she exists. And she's innocent. We sat there in silence. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of ice and dead fish. I loved you, I said finally. For 12 years I loved you. I know. And you let her destroy me. I know. I stood up. We're done here. I walked away. Didn't look back. The criminal trial began in April. Patricia faced multiple felony charges. Medical battery, reproductive coercion, fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud. The prosecution called me first. I took the stand on a Tuesday morning, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. Then I told my story. Every violation. Every lie. Every moment of pain. Patricia's lawyer cross-examined me. Tried to paint me as vindictive, a woman scorned. Isn't it true you were jealous of your husband's relationship with Simone? No, I said calmly. I was unconscious while your client stole my reproductive system. The courtroom gasped. Angela, Rachel, and Jennifer testified next. Each story identical. Unauthorized procedures. Stolen fertility. Settlements to buy silence. Simone testified too. Reluctantly. I thought I was using an anonymous donor, she said, voice shaking. Dr. Brandt lied to me. I never would have consented if I'd known the truth. The defense crumbled. On May 3rd, after 4 hours of deliberation, the jury came back. Guilty on all counts. Patricia was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. $2.5 million in restitution to her victims. Permanent revocation of her medical license. I watched them lead her away in handcuffs. Watched her cry. Watched her break. Felt nothing. No joy. No relief. Just tired. The civil lawsuit settled out of court in June. Patricia's malpractice insurance. Her personal assets. The sale of the clinic. All of it liquidated. I received $1.8 million. Angela, Rachel, and Jennifer received similar amounts. Blood money, Angela called it during our video call. I couldn't disagree. I used part of it to pay off our debt. Funded a scholarship for nursing students at Aurora Medical Center. Donated to a reproductive rights organization Diane recommended. The rest sat in an account I didn't touch. I returned to work part-time in July. My colleagues were kind. Distant. Unsure what to say. I didn't blame them. One afternoon in August, Simone called. Can we talk? About Lily. We met at a cafe in Bayview. The same one where we'd had coffee months ago, back when I was still pretending. Simone looked older. Tired. Like motherhood and trauma had aged her in fast forward. I want you in her life, she said, hands wrapped around her mug. Legally. You're her biological mother. I think she deserves to know you. My throat tightened. What about Derek? He's trying. Therapy. Trying to process everything. Simone paused. But it's complicated. For him. For all of us. We agreed on shared custody. So. Supervised. Therapist mediated. It was messy. Painful. Nothing like I'd imagine motherhood would be. But it was real. And it was a start. A year later, I sit in my apartment in Shorewood and barely recognize my own life. The place is small. 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors. A window that looks out over Lake Michigan where I watch the water change colors with the seasons. It's mine. Paid for with settlement money I finally learned not to hate. The furniture is simple. A couch from IKEA. A kitchen table from a second-hand store. Nothing like the duplex Derek and I shared with its accumulated 12 years of marriage. Wedding gifts, furniture we'd picked out together. The crib we'd assembled for a daughter who turned out to be his sister. That life is gone. The divorce finalized in September. Derek moved to Minnesota for a fresh start. He sees Lily twice a month, calls me occasionally with updates. Our conversations are cordial. distant. Like acquaintances who once knew each other well. He's in therapy. So am I. Some wounds don't close. You just learn to live around them. On my kitchen table sits a framed photo. Me holding Lily, now 14 months old, both of us smiling at something off camera. Simone had taken it last month at the park. It's complicated, this love I feel for a child created through violation. But it's real. Simone sends photos weekly. Videos of Lily learning to walk, babbling her first words. We're not friends exactly, but we're something. Co-survivors maybe. Building trust slowly. Lily doesn't know the truth yet. Someday she will. When she's old enough to understand. When she asks why she has two mothers and why her brother is also her father. But not today. I'm back in school now. Finally pursuing my master's in nursing. Specializing in medical ethics and patient advocacy. My thesis is on reproductive coercion in fertility medicine. How to identify it, prevent it, prosecute it. I've spent months researching, interviewing victims, consulting with lawyers like Diane. I present at conferences now. Tell my story to medical students, policymakers, advocacy groups. Last week I spoke to a room full of nursing students at Marquette. Consent isn't a signature on a form, I told them, standing at the front of the lecture hall. It's an ongoing conversation. A relationship of trust. And when we violate that, when we use our medical expertise to harm instead of heal, we violate everything medicine stands for. They listened, took notes, asked questions. Afterward, a young woman approached me. Maybe 22. Dark hair. Nervous hands. My aunt went through something similar, she said quietly. Years ago. A doctor she trusted. She never talks about it. I never understood why she was so angry. Now I do. I squeezed her hand. Tell her she's not alone. This work, turning trauma into advocacy, gives me purpose. Some nights I'm exhausted. Emotionally drained from reliving the story over and over. Other nights I feel powerful. Like I'm taking something evil and making it mean something. The Alliance still meets monthly. Naomi, Angela, Rachel, Jennifer. Plus 2 more women who came forward after the trial. Women Patricia had violated years ago. Women who'd stayed silent until they saw us speak up. We call ourselves the Survivors Table. We rotate coffee shops around Wisconsin. Share updates. Celebrate victories. Grieve setbacks. Angela's pregnant again. Adopting a baby girl from foster care. Due in March. Rachel wrote a book about her experience. It comes out next spring. She sent us all advance copies. Jennifer started a nonprofit, Medical Accountability Now, for victims of medical abuse who can't afford lawyers. I manage the fund we created with our settlement money. We've dispersed $340,000 so far in grants to women fighting doctors who wronged them. We're doing what Patricia should have done, Angela said last month, stirring her latte. Helping women build families. Just, ethically. We laughed. Dark humor. Survivor humor. These women understand me in ways no one else can. When I wake up at 3 a.m. angry and grieving, I text the group. Someone's always awake. I'm here, Rachel will type. Me too, from Jennifer. They hold me up. I hold them up. We survive together. Derek called in December. A year after the gala. Almost to the day. I was making soup, tomato from scratch, when my phone rang. I'm getting married, he said. To someone I met in therapy. I wanted you to know. I stirred the soup. Turned down the heat. That's good, Derek. I'm happy for you. And I meant it. I don't love him anymore. Don't hate him either. He's just a man who made terrible choices who's trying to live with them. Lily's asking about you, he added. She says your name. Know me. My eyes stung. I'm seeing her next week. Simone and I have a routine now. I know. She told me. He paused. Thank you. For not shutting me out of this. You could have. She's your sister. You deserve to know her. The words still feel strange. But true. We talked a bit longer. Small things. Safe things. His new job. My thesis. The weather in Minnesota. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Closure. Not forgiveness. I'll never forgive what he allowed to happen. But release. I don't need him to suffer anymore. His guilt is his to carry. Mine is lighter now. On a cold Saturday in January, I pick up Lily from Simone's house. She toddles to me the second I walk through the door, arms up shouting, "Know me. Know me." I scoop her up. Breathe in baby shampoo and innocence. We spend the afternoon at the Children's Museum. Lily's fascinated by the water tables, the colored blocks, the room where you can build towers and knock them down. I watch her laugh, this little girl made from cruelty but filled with light, and feel the contradiction of it all. I'll never carry a child. My body was stolen. My future rewritten. But I have this. Messy. Complicated. Born from trauma. But still love. That night, I tuck Lily into the crib I've set up in my spare room. She's already asleep, tiny chest rising and falling. I stand there a long time. Hand on the crib rail. I think about the letter I wrote. The one Lily will read when she's 18. I think about Patricia. 8 years into her sentence. Still filing appeals. Think about Derek. Building a new life in Minnesota. I think about Angela, Rachel, Jennifer. The survivors table. And myself. Not the woman I was. But someone different. Scarred. Stronger. Free. I turn off the light. Leave the door cracked. Go to my room. Tomorrow I'll visit my mother. Call Angela. Work on my thesis. But tonight I'm just here. In the quiet. In the after. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. If Naomi's story moved you, hit that subscribe button. You're part of this community now. Like if you believed she'd get justice. Comment below. Which moment hit you hardest? When she discovered the truth. The gala confrontation? Or her final piece? Your voice matters here. Share your thoughts.